Hello everyone, welcome to a new session of our device registration series. In this session, I'll be walking you through Hybrid Azure AD Join for managed domains, and also I'll be covering device registration detailed steps. If this is your first time watching my videos, my name is Mohammed Zmeli and my goal is to make identity learning easier. So let's get started. If you have devices already joined to the local Active Directory and you want to extend them to Azure Active Directory, then you can configure Auto Hybrid Azure AD Join. For Hybrid Azure AD Join, local Active Directory is the primary authority for authentication, which means once users unlock their devices, their credentials will be validated against local Active Directory, since they are joined to the local Active Directory. And users on Hybrid Azure AD Join devices will have single sign-on experience for both on-prem resources because they are already joined to the local Active Directory, and for cloud resources and services because they are connected to Azure Active Directory as well. Also, admins can control the access to cloud services from Hybrid Azure AD Join devices if they are enrolled to Intune or by choosing require Hybrid Azure AD Join control. Supported operating systems for Hybrid Azure AD Join are Windows 10 and above, Windows Server 2016 and above. And for down-level devices, Windows Server 28 R2, Windows Server 2012 R2, Windows 7, and Windows 8.1. But for down-level devices, we require to have Auto Workplace Join package installed. Let's go through enabling Hybrid Azure AD Join. To configure Hybrid Azure AD Join, we need to connect to AD Connect server and run AD Connect wizard. Click on Configure, choose Configure Device Options, next. Here there is an overview about Hybrid Azure AD Join. Read it, then click Next. In this section, we need to sign in using a global admin account to fetch tenants information from Azure Active Directory. Next. Make sure you have Configure Hybrid Azure AD Join option selected. Next. And also make sure you have Windows 10 or later domain join devices option selected. Click on Next. In this section, we need to select our forest and click on Add to enter our enterprise admin credentials because we are going to create service connection point on configuration partition. Click on Next. Click on Configure. And now our service connection point has been created successfully under configuration partition. To see it, let's open Run. Click adsiedit.msc. Connect to configuration partition, services, device registration configuration, and here is our device registration service connection point. Right click on it, go to properties, and go to keys attribute, and here we can see our tenant's information. This is the tenant ID, and here is the domain name as well. Let's close this one. Also, there is another way to read service connection point and confirm it has been created successfully using dsreg tool. To download dsreg tool, we need to open our browser and go to aka.ms/dsreg tool. We can use device registration troubleshooter tool to troubleshoot the most common device registration issues and to verify the device's health status, also to collect the needed logs. To download the tool, we just need to click on this hyperlink. After the tool being downloaded successfully, we need to run it using PowerShell. Let's go with option number 4 to verify service connection point and click on Enter. Here there is the service connection point information and we can confirm the service connection point has been created successfully as the tenant's name is configured correctly and also tenant's ID has been configured correctly. Now our environment is ready for device registration. Now let's go through device registration prerequisites. To register devices to Azure Active Directory, service connection point should be created, whether under configuration partition, just like we did, or using client-side registry. Also, devices should have line-of-sight connection to domain controllers, and they should have the connectivity to the following endpoints under system context, and this is for current devices like Windows 10 and above and Windows Server 2016 and above. Also, local Active Directory computer objects should be in sync scope for AD Connect. Now let's cover device registration flow for managed domains. Once device registration triggers, it goes through 3 phases. The first one is the pre-check, where device registration service verifies if the device already connected to Azure AD as Hybrid Azure AD Join or not. Then it verifies the connectivity to the local Active Directory, and lastly, it verifies if the process itself triggered under system context. Then it goes through a discover phase, where it reads tenant's information from service connection point, whether it's configured under configuration partition or via registry using client-side registry. Then it verifies the internet connectivity to Azure device registration services. If this succeeds, then device registration go through the join phase, where it creates a self-signed certificate and push it under local Active Directory computer object under user certificate attribute. And in this stage, we need to wait AD Connect to sync local Active Directory computer object to Azure Active Directory. And basically, AD Connect synchronizes every single local Active Directory computer object in the sync scope that have user certificate attribute populated, and the device remains in Azure Active Directory in pending state until device registration triggers again, and this is only for managed domains. After device registration triggers for the second time, it authenticates from Azure Active Directory using the synchronized self-signed certificate using AD Connect. Then it generates device key pair and transport key pair. After that, it creates the certificate request using device key public portion and sign it using device key private portion. Then it sends the ID token, the signed certificate request, and transport key public portion to Azure Active Directory. Now Azure Active Directory verifies the token, confirms it is already valid, and after that it creates the device certificate, and also it updates Azure Active Directory device object in Azure Active Directory. And lastly, device receives and stores the certificate which has been created by Azure to the local computer personal store. Let's jump into our demo. So here we have this Windows 11 device that we wanted to be registered to Azure AD as Hybrid Azure AD Join. First of all, let's verify if this device already registered or not. We can do this by going to Windows Terminal and let's run dsreg cmd /status command. As we can see here, the device is already joined to the local Active Directory, and this is the domain name and this is device name as well, but this device is not connected to Azure Active Directory yet. Before we start device registration, let's verify the prerequisites using dsreg tool. I have dsreg tool already downloaded here in folder, so let's go and run it. Here we need to go with option number 3 to verify and troubleshoot Hybrid Azure AD Join. This is going to verify the prerequisites. If there is an issue, it will tell us where is that issue and gives us some recommendation to fix it by ourselves. So let's go with option number 3. Currently, the tool verifies if this device is already connected to Azure AD, verifies the service connection point if it is created correctly or not, and also it verifies the internet connectivity under system context to Azure Device Registration Services. Here we can see user certificate attribute is not populated to the local Active Directory computer object, which means device registration didn't trigger yet and it didn't create the needed self-signed certificate and push it under local Active Directory computer object. Now we need to trigger device registration. There is a task scheduler under task scheduler library, Microsoft, Windows, scroll the whole way down, workplace join, we can see automatic device join task scheduler. This is the task which is responsible for device registration. As we can see, this task running under system context or system account, which is a prerequisite. Also, this task scheduler triggers at logon. So this means once user unlocks his device or sign into the device, this task scheduler is going to trigger, which means device registration also is going to trigger. There is also another event that make device registration triggers, which is 4096. This event being written in event viewer once the machine joined to the local Active Directory, and it is being repeated every 1 hour for 24 hours or day. Now, there is another way to trigger device registration, which is using dsreg cmd /join command. And we can use debug switch, which is going to give us more information about device registration. So let's start device registration. Now, as we can see here, device registration already started, and we can see our domain is already managed, and this is the tenant's information, tenant domain as well. And here we have an error. Device registration failed, and the error message is the device object by the given ID is not found in Azure Active Directory. Well, this error is expected because, as I mentioned before, once device registration triggers, it's going to create the self-signed certificate and push it under local Active Directory computer object under user certificate attribute. We can also see more information about this error in event viewer by opening application and services logs, Microsoft, Windows, and let's go to user device registration. Admin, we can see clearly here the error message. So automatic device registration failed at the join phase because the computer object does not exist in Azure Active Directory. Also, we can see the domain type here or the tenant type, which is managed, and the registration type is sync. And here is the error phase, which is join. We can also go to our local Active Directory to verify our local Active Directory computer object. So let's go to Active Directory users and computers, view advanced features. This is our device. Let's right click on it and go to properties, attribute editor. Here we can see the user certificate. So the user certificate attribute populated with our device registration service. Let's try to decode the certificate. Right click on the certificate value, select all, right click again, copy, and let's open Notepad, paste, and let's save it under C drive, cert folder. Let's name it 1.hex. Save. Now, let's close Notepad. Let's open command prompt, and we need to locate the folder cd cert, and let's use certutil command to decode the certificate. So certutil hyphen decode hex. Our hex file is 1.hex, and we need of our certificate exported to 1.cer. Now the command completed successfully. Let's open 1.cer certificate. So this is the certificate that device registration service created. As we can see here, the certificate has been issued to this GUI. Basically, this GUI is the local Active Directory computer object GUID. If we went back to our computer object, go to computer object GUID, scroll up. Here it is. So this is the object GUID. So this certificate has been created and issued for this particular computer. And for Hybrid Azure AD Join devices, the device ID in Azure Active Directory will match the local Active Directory computer object GUID, which means if we re-register the device multiple times, the device will have the same device ID because it's coming from the object GUID. Now, let's close this one and let's go back to our device. Let's try to verify if the computer object already synchronized to Azure AD or not yet. We do this by go to portal.azure.com, Azure Active Directory, Devices section, and this is our device name. Let's try to refresh. Currently, the computer object didn't synchronize to Azure AD because the default synchronization cycle for AD Connect is 30 minutes. However, we can force this synchronization by going to AD Connect server and let's open PowerShell. We can use start AD sync cycle command. Let's hit enter. Currently, AD Connect is going to search in local Active Directory computer objects and it's going to populate all devices that have user certificate attribute and send them to Azure Active Directory. Let's verify if our device synchronized to Azure AD or not yet using synchronization service. So here we need to verify the cloud connector, and under adds we can see there is an object has been added to Azure Active Directory. If we opened it, we can see this is our device. So our device name is Windows 11. So this is our device which has been added to Azure Active Directory. Now, if we went back to our Azure portal, let's try to refresh. Now we can see the device has been synchronized to Azure Active Directory, but it is in pending state. So device registration didn't complete yet. Now let's go back to our command prompt on the device and let's trigger device registration one more time using the azureaddevices join command. Let's hit enter. Now we can see our device registered successfully to Azure Active Directory. So currently we can see Azure AD Join equals yes. This is the device ID, which is the same as our object GUID, local Active Directory computer object GUID, and this is the tenancy information. And this device is already connected to Azure Active Directory successfully as Hybrid Azure AD Join. Let's go back to Azure portal, refresh. May need some time. Now, as we can see, the registered date and time has been populated under registered column, which means the device completed the registration successfully from Azure AD side as well. Now, let's try to open certlm.msc. This is a shortcut so that we can open local certificate store for the device. We went to personal certificate. We can see Azure Active Directory issued and sent MS organization access certificate to the computer object GUID or the device ID. This is Azure Active Directory device ID, which equals to the local Active Directory computer object GUID. And this certificate is valid for 100 years. We can see cloud domain join information from registry for registered devices by going to edit, HKey local machine, system, current control set, control, and cloud domain join. We went to diagnostics. We can have more information about the registration type, whether it's sync or fed. In our case here, since we have a managed domain, we can see the registration type is sync. Also, we can see more information about the join info. So during the device registration, device display name was Windows 11. And also this is the tenant ID. We can have a look to this one as well. And under tenant info, we can see more information about important URL, like, for example, device management endpoint, device management resource ID. So those can give us better understanding about device registration information. Last thing that we want to go with is to verify the device health state using dsreg tool. So let's go back, run dsreg tool one more time. And in this case, we need to verify the health status for this device to make sure it is in good state and in healthy state, and users can use that particular device without any issue. So let's go with option number 5, hit enter. Now, dsreg tool verifies the device itself, verifies the certificate, and here we need to sign in to the cloud services or Azure Active Directory using any account. We can use a normal account here, and the idea of that is to verify the computer object in Azure Active Directory. So let's try to sign in right now, and I'm going to use my normal account, sign in, continue. Now, dsreg tool verified the device in Azure Active Directory if it is existing or not, if it is enabled, not in pending state, which means the device completed device registration successfully, and also it verifies if the device not stale and not in dual state. Currently, our device is in healthy state and we are good to go to ship it to one of our users. So the users right now, once they sign into this device, they are going to have primary refresh token issued successfully. That's it for Hybrid Azure AD Join for managed domains. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.